Well, we're in week 3 of this Sabbath series, and it's been so good. Thank you, Steve, for teaching us today. The message was powerful, and straight out the gate, when you're talking about your friend Chris, and the statement that stuck with me even from the beginning, and I could see a through line throughout the message, was this idea of, I've got your back. Yeah. And the place that I saw it connecting really well was in what God created. When you're talking about how God created all these things and he saw it was good, it was like every good thing for me was like, oh, it was an expression of I've got your back. Here's provision of something really good and beautiful to eat. I've got your back. I've created this world full of relationship and interconnectedness, and that's what you were made for. I've got your back. And it's so loving what God did, and it was so loving what your friend Chris did, and I honor that. Yeah. And I felt that throughout that message. But as you were talking about this idea of goodness and this idea of what God saw when he made the world, I couldn't help but think, man, it just must have been so much easier for God in the beginning when everything was like perfect, so to speak, and none of us were here. You know what I mean? It was before human beings could come and mess it up. It was before we needed somebody like Chris to risk his life. And so when he looked on the world, everything was pristine and it was beautiful, and he saw that it was good. But the expectation still through this series and through what you're teaching us today is like, even though the world has experienced fallenness, God's saying, I need you to look and see that things are good. Like, why is that so hard for us today?
Yeah, I think that's some of what you're acknowledging, even with the I've got your back piece of it, is like, there's so much of us that needs that assurance. Yeah. That even at times it's difficult to say, I don't have my stuff together, I'm not okay, I'm not doing well right now. And I think there's just like so many different societal pressures that are put on us, whether that be social media or the news cycle or whatever, that we have to maintain some level of like, no, I'm fine. But to experience true goodness, it runs contrary to just the way we're wired. And also, like, I think there's moments of guilt when we experience, like, I don't deserve this, you know? Yeah. Or moments of even guilt when it comes to like, not only do I not deserve this, but maybe I should be doing something more productive with my time. Yeah. And so I think there's so many things pushing against us from ourselves, but also from the culture around us that say, no, the good that we're talking about is not actually that acceptable. Yeah. But it's so necessary.
Yeah. Is that good? Do you feel like it's something that we have to get as if it's not ours to have? Because you're mentioning like social media and all these things coming and, in a sense, stealing what was ours to have, stealing our joy, stealing our ability to delight, stealing our ability to really like bask in the goodness. Like, what do we do to either protect what is ours to have, or what do we do to not cause ourselves to go, I've actually given it now to something that even social media doesn't care about you. No. So why do I give it my joy? Yeah. He cares about you, yes.
No, I think just what you said is so, like, I hadn't thought about that in that way, that it's ours to have. And I really like that, because it's the protecting thing that you're talking about. We have to know that it's ours to have first. Yeah. Before we protect it. Yeah. And so to know that like God created everything with this Tov mentality and this Tov ideal and this Tov reality, to acknowledge that and agree with that and accept that, that's the first challenge. And then to protect it is to go, no, I'm actually not going to let these other things steal or usurp whatever I have that God's given us, right? I'm not going to allow those things to come in, because this is for us. This is ours. And Sabbath, I think, is one of the ways that we protect that. Yeah. Which is also, I love that quote by Dan Allender that I shared. It's like I don't even know if we can bear it, because I don't know how much we've experienced of it. Yeah. To have that much intentional goodness and delight. Yeah. That's a challenge.
Yeah. How do you see delight also being protection? How do you see this idea of like reflecting on goodness also being protection, and how can we take that on for our own lives even this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's intentionality. Well, first probably acceptance, like we just said.
Yeah.
But secondly, it's probably intentionality of like, put it this way, the things that matter most to us, we protect, right? We always put a guard around certain things that we're like, no, that's mine, or that's ours, or that's us, and I'm not going to let anything infringe on that or disrupt that. What if we treated this space where we stop and rest and delight as that same thing, where it's like, no, this is that important to me that I'm going to create boundaries or put things in place that these aren't going to it's not going to get disrupted. So.
And then the last question, you just mentioned stop, rest, and delight. And you were talking in your message about this idea of hurrying. And obviously that's the inability to stop.
Yeah.
Why does it feel like the pace of life is something that is sort of external, where it's dictated to us? This is how fast, if it's Bay Area life, if you live in the Bay Area, it's why does it feel external as opposed to internal, and what can we do to combat that, to confront that pace of life?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both, right? Like it is external, like there is a societal norm or pressure or whatever that this is the way life operates, and we know that just by living is life goes at a certain pace. But the internal part goes, if I just accept that, or if not, then I'm either going to go along and become a part of that rhythm, or I create my own rhythm. And I think creating our own rhythm would probably, if we can align our rhythm with God, like we talked about a couple of times ago, if we can align our rhythm with God's rhythm, I think that's when we get to experience like, actually those things don't set the standard for us. There's a different standard that's already been set, and that's what we follow.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we have a permission to create a new rhythm, and it's a rhythm that God sets for us. And so this is really, really good for us to consider, to think about. Delight, joy, it's for us, it's ours. So thank you so much for being with us today. We love you. We'll see you next week.